Hello, and welcome to She Rises, the podcast where women in leadership take center stage. I'm Tiffany-O, your host and the founder of Virtual Partner, where we champion humanity in the workplace to build thriving organizations. With over 30 years of experience in change management and servant leadership, I'm here to bring you powerful stories, actionable insights, and inspiring conversations with trailblazing women who are breaking barriers and redefining success. Whether you're climbing the corporate ladder, leading your own venture, or looking for that next level of impact, this is your space to learn, to grow, and to rise. Let's dive in. I'm blessed to have such a guest on my show today, Aina Alive. And of course, she's going to correct me on exactly how she says her name. But Aina is the founder of Bee Agile. Now, that's a company dedicated to guiding organizations through agile adoption in order to enhance resilience and adaptability. With a focus on empowering leaders and teams, Aina's work involves coaching visionary entrepreneurs and CEOs, managers who are leading transformation. She also has expertise, of course, in agile methodology. She's come and spoken in some of the university classrooms that I teach around project management. And she's led a global initiative standing up the global PMO community. So welcome, everyone. Please join me in welcoming Aina Alieve. Hi, Aina. So Aina, I'm really excited that you are here today. I'm not going to tell your story. I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about you, your story, how you got started with Be Agile, that inspiration. And I'll let you take the conversation wherever you want to go. And if you don't get to challenges, I'm going to bring it back.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tiffany. And so my story is I moved to Canada 10 years ago. And definitely as a newcomer, I've been struggling of getting my first job and to get all of the permissions I needed as a newcomer. So I've been rejected a few times during the job interview by the comment that you need to have a Canadian experience just to start getting a Canadian experience. So I decided if it's that challenging to start the job here, so why not to do the workaround and create a job instead and help people who are like me, who just came to a new country and struggling with their first job. So why not to provide the workplaces to them? So that's how I started my Bee Agile company. And surprisingly, after I founded it, I got 4 job offers from different companies, and one of them was a giant like Ernst & Young. And I had these 4 offers, and I had to choose which one I want to pursue.
Which one did you choose, Aina?
So not Ernst & Young. I chose Central One, which is a company on finances.
Wow. That's awesome. I love your perspective, right? If you don't have what you want, why not go and create it? And the second takeaway, which is really important, is that you built community around a common challenge that others faced. You solved the problem, but you did it not just one to one, but you did it one to many by creating a community that can support others with a similar challenge. We can learn a lot from you when it comes to that. I love it. So talk to me a little bit about how your personal journey has influenced your approach to agile transformation. And maybe you could talk a little bit about what agile transformation is for those who are watching and they may be a little unfamiliar with that expression.
Sure. Like centuries ago until now, people have been working with tangible projects. So for example, when we needed to build a bridge, so the bridge was tangible and people have been building bridge for like thousands of years. So the projects were like really common unless you wanted some additional feature on your design of the bridge, but still people had a clear understanding of what they've been doing. So they had a project, they had a design, and then they delivered it at the end, and nobody was really caring about what is happening in the middle because you cannot use the bridge until it's done. Until late 80s, when we moved from tangible projects to intangible, when I started working in IT, when Steve Jobs brought the computers to all of us, and humanity faced the challenge of doing the project the first time in their life. So we couldn't plan ahead. We couldn't plan resources. We couldn't plan knowledge because we needed to figure it out from scratch. And at the end, when we've been working with customers, if we've been working for like 2 or 5 years to finish the project, appeared that it's not what our customers wanted. And how to figure out what the customer wants, you can definitely ask them. But imagine a simple case, Tiffany. I am the website designer, and I'm asking you, what kind of website do you want? So what answer would I get at the end? So you would probably answer like a nice one, but it's not enough from the technical side of the project. So I need to prepare a draft, show it to you, and then you would be like, I thought I love the red color, but it's too much red. Could you change it? But if we agreed on the project, so it means I have to change the scope, meaning it's an additional cost for you. And here is the dilemma. Do you really don't like the red so much to be able to pay extra cost? Or you agree on going with red? And it's just a simple one. But remember the projects like Obamacare and the other financial projects, that is huge. Now, to be able to deliver something like that, we needed to be adaptable. We needed to rethink our processes, our bureaucracy, everything in the organization. And here where like global agile transformation came to the market.
Wow. So when you start to think about your earlier experiences, how did you get ready to be able to step into that? Because as you talked about the transformation, we were waterfall, we were running projects that were high risk, with concrete start and ends, and now we're with these ambiguous, big, audacious, hairy things, but we don't know where it starts and ends, but we have to get started. How did you sort of get ready to make that transition? What are some things that helped you to be able to lean into that?
So I've been jack of all trades most of my life. I started my career as an electrical engineer. I have a master's in electrical engineering. And then I felt there is not much creativity there, unfortunately. So I became nail designer.
Wow.
And in the nail industry, there was much creativity, but I was missing like the intellectual part of doing something big, something global, like learning more about Chernobyl. I'm from Ukraine, and so Chernobyl happened the year when I was born. So I'm really much attached to that story and to learn from those mistakes. So I was missing that like big global intellectual challenge. So I got back to engineering, but on the project management side. But again, project management wasn't something what I've been passionate about, because as a project manager, you're above people. And I liked being like, inside like a servant leader without knowing this phrase. And eventually, when I traveled to Europe and I've heard that term and I've learned about Agile there, I'm like, oh, that's what I've been doing most of my life without understanding that there is a job for that. So why not to pivot? Why not become a Scrum Master? And then when I moved to Canada, I started my second degree MBA in technology because I wanted to pivot to technology to become an agilist. And so, yes, I became a Scrum Master while being studying my second master's.
Incredible, Aina. Your hunger and thirst for knowledge and for learning and the different sides of you that need to be full, right? So it's the intellectual side, the creative side, the tactical side. Then you're like, oh, but I want to make a global impact. You're like the whole woman. It's amazing. I love every time we come together, I learn some new things about you, and I can see the impact you make for your clients and for those that you're mentoring. So I want to dig a little bit into some advice that you would give to others who might be somewhat stalled in their business or their career. What advice would you lay on the table for us today?
I would say if you feel that you're stuck, or if you feel like you're failing or you're losing something, it's up to you to decide if you really fail or lose or not. Because the life circumstances can push you to believe that it's done, but it's up to you to continue until you get what you want. And I will explain, sharing an example of my immigration story. So when I moved to Canada, everything what was possibly go wrong went wrong. I get rejections for like no reasons, and then appeared that it was a system mistake. I had delays in proceeding my applications. I had a mistake in my MBA certificate. They forgot to post a day of my graduation. So from the immigration perspective, it was like I'm cheating, like I'm still studying and I'm trying to get a work permit. So any possible and impossible case, I faced them. And I felt really devastated. It kept going on and on, like 4 years, and I've been still on a student visa. I've been still studying, hoping for my papers compared to the other people who've been doing it for like 6 months or even less, and they got their papers. And I faced a choice, like whether I want to give up and pack my luggage and go back to Ukraine, or I continue. I decided to continue, and I called to the immigration asking, what about my process? And the first person wasn't able to reply back to me. She told, just go to the website. And I've been monitoring the website every single day, so no progress there. But I haven't given up. I called the second time, and it was another person who also just read me what's been written on the website. And then I felt like, no, I am not ready to give up. It's done when I decide when it's done. And I called the third time. And the third time, I mean, a very professional person who'd been working there for years. And she checked everything and then appeared that there is a mistake. Like if you work in IT, you know, that if you deploy something to test environment and then you forget to deploy it to like production, so you see it on your internal service, but the external people like me, like the customers, they don't see it. So they appeared, they approved me 1.5 years ago, but it's stuck in between like internal view and external view. So internally, they saw that I've been approved. Externally, it was still pending.
Wow.
So she was able to figure it out. She was able to solve it. And the next month, I got my citizenship. So since that, there is my biggest lesson learned in my life. The end is only if I decide if it is end.
I love it. I see that as I contemplate our work together. For those of you who are watching, this is not my first time with Aina. We've been connected a little over a year now, last year for International Women's Month. Aina hosted the Rise of the PMO, and it was a panel with PMO leaders from around the world who came together, who were female, at Aina bringing it together. But the reason I tell the story is that the community that she was leading, she had an ambitious goal. And I'm excited that a year later, that goal is coming to fruition. I'm not going to steal your thunder. Tell us a little bit about how you have taken your own advice again and again and how it's leading to success for you.
I will be very honest with you, Tiffany, and our audience. Initially, that goal wasn't ambitious. So we started the PMO community and it was for other partners. And we decided to go global and to bring a global awareness. I got an idea, why not to start the book writing challenge? So I will gather people from all over the world submitting their chapters. So there is not that much work for people just to contribute a few pages of their knowledge on the PMO topic. And also I've been inspired by Antonia Niento's article about the race of the chief project officer, because I believe that this position is missing in the organization, because we have like VP of marketing, VP of operations, but we don't have VP of a project management side. So like the C-suite table doesn't hear often about what is happening with projects. So we decided why not to preach that position and also tell people about the PMO, the evolution, what's been in the past and what we have to hope in future. So I started this challenge also hoping that I will bring awareness for our small entrepreneurial endeavor, such as the PMO community. And surprisingly, I got 40 people instead of 20 I hoped to get. And the project became international. I gathered people from the 6 continents and 29 countries. And the book became an encyclopedia. We have 500 plus pages right now. So I faced another challenge, how to edit all of this work and how to put all of this together and how to make a flow. So I started reaching out for external help, gathering volunteers. And, if people volunteer, it takes way longer than if people have full-time jobs. And so to continue hitting the audience, I decided why not to start talking to these people, to the authors, because definitely they have way more knowledge than they contributed for their chapters. So that's how the PMO Community podcast was born. I started podcasting, and then I decided why not to also record people and post it on YouTube. So at the end, when I interviewed 33 people out of 40, because some of them declined due to different reasons, it took me a year, but it turned into a global movement. And it's the first unique book which has the people's articles, obviously, but also the QR codes for the podcasts and for the YouTube videos. So you guys are able not just to read us, but also to listen to our voices, to see our faces, and to interact with us and write us your questions and messages using our LinkedIn QR codes, which are also included in the book.
So I want to celebrate, Aina. I am so excited. When you told me about this project, I was super excited that you would start. And then there was a pause for a moment. And so today, when I ask, tell me what's going on and to get this news, I'm just super excited. And not just that, I'm proud. I'm very proud of
Thank
you.
you.
Not that me being proud of you matters, but I think sometimes for those that are watching, women, sometimes we get so used to being the only that when someone else steps up and we make room for them, sometimes we don't shine the light as brightly as we should. And this light, I am casting a big old bright light on you, girl. This is amazing. So I can't wait to read the book. Tell us about the launch, where you're going to do the launch and some activities related to it so that we can all get behind you and support you.
Yeah, I hope, fingers crossed, that we are launching it next week between February 20th to 25th. Depends how long it's going to be a process with Amazon. And then I'm going to real physical in-person launch with signing the copies in Dubai, because first of all, I've never been to Dubai. And why not to have this trip and to create these memories by launching my
Yes, yes,
baby.
yes, yes.
Also, my publisher is from Dubai as well, so she's going to be there and she's going to help me to organize all of this. So I'm looking forward to this.
Very exciting, very exciting. We will be watching online. Where can people who are listening today find the book? Of course, I'm going to put it at the end in the transcript, but where can they find the book? I know if you want to know where to find her website to do consulting with her on her methodology, it's Bee Agile Now, BEE, like the bumblebee, beagilenowcom. But tell us about the book.
So you will be able to find it on Amazon when we launch it. And also I will provide a link on my website, what Tiffany just mentioned, beagilenow.com. And also on my LinkedIn, Aina Alive. So if you follow me, there are lots of advertisements about the book, and I'm going to continue to post it, and not just to promote this endeavor, but also because I believe that we created not just a book, not just encyclopedia, but also a movement and also a collective effort. And I hope the large enterprises and C-suite level will notice that, and hopefully soon we will get this new position at C-suite table.
Oh, I can't wait to host you in Baltimore. So I'm saying that live. We'll have to have an event here for you in Baltimore with the Baltimore PM community and PMO community here and other leaders of transformation in the area. Definitely can't wait to be able to bring that book here. Okay, so awesome. This is a very ambitious goal, but I tell the story about the book because there wasn't, there was a moment, there was a pause. And somehow Aina took her own advice and got reignited and was like, I have a commitment. I'm going to honor my commitment. I had 40 people to do, 20 people do submissions plus the other 20, and I'm going to honor that and see it through. And you said you get to choose the ending. And what an amazing ending, beginning this is, right? So, congratulations.
Thank you.
Let's talk a little bit about, since we're talking global, put our global lens on for a moment. So, Aina, you've supported me in the past. And when I talk about one of my big audacious goals was to shorten the leadership runway for women from the front door to the top floor in less than 10 years. And I want to reach at least 1 million women by 2028. That means having corporate America, companies that employ women, change something significant so that women are met and are better prepared for leadership. Is there a way that you think we should go about doing that? If you could think of one way to achieve that, maybe even in the field of agile transformation, what's one way we can shorten that leadership runway and
I
hold
think
space for women?
I think as women, definitely we need to support women more and we need to provide more mentorship to women. Because where I am right now, it took me almost 20 years, but reflecting back, I think I could easily have done it just in 10 years. If I am not that shy, especially when I'm young, and if I am bolder and if I speak up at the table with other men, and don't feel like if I am interrupted, it means that my opinion is not valid or it's not that important or even stupid. If I continue speaking up and if I continue pursuing my leadership trend, rather than shut myself down and be someone else's secretary, and despite that my position was electrical engineer or like anything else, my behavior was more secretarial than leadership. We mentor women this way that you still can pivot the conversation back to what you wanted to say, like what I am doing right now. If I am interrupted, I am not trying to interrupt the person back because it doesn't make sense. So I listen to the other person's opinion. And if people start talking about something else, so pivot in the conversation, I politely interrupt and say, excuse me, but I haven't finished my thought and I believe it's important. So that's what I wanted to add to this. And if I politely say something like that, people listen and people agree that there is value there. But I missed 10 years of my life shutting myself down, believing that if somebody just too much extrovert and cannot wait until I finish just because they're eager to jump on with their thoughts on the top of mine. So yeah, to wrap up my thoughts, we need to mentor women more and support them at a young age.
Thank you very much. That was very insightful. There's a point of connection, Aina. One is supporting, but specifically with helping them find their voice and their confidence early on, and learning how to behave when they are the only in the room, right? And when I say learning how to behave, that is not the shrinking behavior, but learning, how to interact with people who are different when you're the only in the room. Thank you so much for shining a light on that. When you think global as well, do you believe, or what strategic advantages do you believe it brings when we can have leadership teams that are reflective of global diversity? And I know diversity seems to be like in the United States, it's like it's all of a sudden overnight, it's a word in the dictionary and a way of being, but overnight people are afraid to say it. And it's almost like a taboo word. But divergent thinking and diversity, we know, contributes financially to bottom lines of organization. But since you're working globally, how can organizations build these leadership teams that are reflective of global diversity just to ensure robust representation of women in tech and transformation in business?
I think, first of all, we need to embrace the fact that all of us are different. Like women are different from men, older people are different from younger people, Chinese are different from Ukrainians, Ukrainians are different from Americans, Americans are different from Latin Americans. But nowadays, it's hard to talk about these differences because I liked your word, Tiffany. It's kind of like a taboo because if I start talking, let's say, about Americans, so I kind of like generalizing and I'm kind of like stereotyping. So I already seems like someone who seems to stereotype. And definitely, all of us are different, but we also have some cultural legacy. And that's what organizations need to embrace these cultural exchanges, cultural conversations. And I will bring an example. In Ukraine, we are very hierarchical based on the age. So if I am, let's say, 25 and you are 45, I wouldn't dare to interrupt you or like speak up before you finish like your thought, even though like I would believe that your case is wrong for this specific organizational case. And I'm talking if we are like on the equal positions. Like let's say if you're a developer and I'm a developer, I will still treat you as a senior developer. Older. And here in America, you don't know about this Ukrainian cultural part. And definitely not all people are like me. So some Ukrainians disregard it, but again, the majority, they follow this trend. And something like that about all of the culture. So I won't speak up about the other cultures, but that's what we need to learn in the organizations, kind of having this maybe cultural food exchange. And during this food exchange, we're going to talk about other cultural parts. And instead of tabooing it, or instead of being scared of being labeled as a stereotypical, etc., let's just embrace the conversation and maybe let's pick up first. Like I just shared about our Ukrainian culture trait, and other people can share what they experience and what is different here in America. And that's how we can learn, and that's how we can see things from different angles.
You know, it's interesting. This is the first time that I'm having a conversation where I've asked this question, and your insights took us to a different place, right? It took us to a cultural exchange, openly embracing not just a different way of thinking, but where people are from, their food, their music, their understanding how they behave in the home, what the culture is like overall, being able to embrace those kinds of differences, not just diversity for the sake of having someone different, but having a mindset where we are culturally curious
Yeah,
about
so
one
this is
another.
the reason why we're having someone different to learn about different perspective, not just for the sake like, hey, we're embracing the diversity, but we're not talking about it.
Yes, I love it. Thank you very much for taking us down that path. I think that'll be very interesting as we begin to sort of have more conversations around that question. But as you can imagine, if you have that level of understanding, for example, Aina, maybe you're in Canada and we're on the same leadership team, but your background, you're Ukrainian and you're an immigrant. And that brings a different perspective, but it also brings a different kind of grit to the way that you work. We could learn a lot at that leadership table, having your insights and your perspectives around getting to the goal line and over the finish line, right? And how creative you are. So imagine if we were able to bring those divergent thoughts and personalities from a cultural perspective to all of our sort of tables where we're innovating what we could come up with just because your lens is slightly different than mine. So thank you very much for allowing me to go down that path with you. And that's why I always love talking with you. I always leave the conversation like, oh, wow, that's an interesting perspective. And today I just love it. I get to choose whether I win, lose, or fail. And I get to choose when it ends. I love that. That's a great quote. Okay. As we bring our conversation to a close, there were a couple of things I wanted to make sure that I had you weigh in on. And this is for my leaders who are leading a business, right? Not self-employed people. Like you're leading a business, an initiative, you're working with a team, you're working with partners, you've done all those things. Any insight you'd like to share for women who are leading in that kind of space?
Yeah, I do have one insight. Because I am the person who likes starting a new initiative and then see how it goes without with having a North Star, but without thinking about the details. And also, I love trusting people, and I'm the one who always deliver my promises. So I believe that other people are like me. So I keep making this mistake again and again, not putting everything on the paper, not having this signed agreement with people I work with. And then sooner or later appeared that what we agreed on wasn't really clear for one of the parties. And this is where the conflict starts. And we could easily avoid this conflict by just writing all of the items down and sign them. But because we believe we're friends, we're here together for the common goal, and we can continue and have this agreement later when we
Yes.
already test the idea. But later, sometimes it's too late. So to avoid the misunderstanding, do it as soon as possible, even if it's just an idea stage.
Yeah, I remember when we almost, was it 6 months or 8 months ago? We were talking about we were talking about that, and I could see from who you were as a person that it felt uncomfortable. But now you've stepped into that mindset, and look at where it has gotten you with your new partnerships, 40 plus of them all over the world with your new movement. So kudos to you. So for those of you who are thinking about, we know we go farther together than we do alone, right? Sometimes I hear people say, oh, it's just faster if I just do it by myself. Well, you only get one thing done when you just do it by yourself, right? But you go farther collectively when you harness the collective power of community, and that's what you've done. So I wanted to talk a little bit about community, because many of us who are thinking about our brand, our personal brands, our business brands, you've used community to help build your brand as an effective leader. So, could you talk to us a little bit about getting your head together to reposition yourself in the face of change? Because in the United States right now, Aina, there are a lot of rifts, reduction in workforce. So you have successfully rebranded, come out on top. Your name, Aina Alive. Aina Alive, what a name! Truly represents you. So anyway, let me give the mic to you to sort of talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I rebranded myself a few times. And the first time it was Agile. I mean, here in North America, I branded myself as an Agilist. And now, unfortunately, I see that there is not that demand on Agile jobs like it was 10 or even 5 years ago. So I believe that this trend, unfortunately, is going to shorten and shorten. And like 3 years later, maybe there are going to be just a few positions on the Agile side. So I decided that it's time for me to rebrand myself again. And I chose PMO because it still relates to like big organizational transformation. We still need to do organizational changes. So whether we're calling them agile transformation or we will create another fancy word, it's still going to be change because the world is evolving, the world is changing, the workplaces are changing. We will need changes. So I decided to rebrand to the PMO, and the first advice, start rebranding in advance, not when you lose your job, because it will take you at least a year if you are experienced in rebranding. And I've been rebranding since like from electrical engineer and then to project manager and then to teacher and then hospitality management. So I know how to rebrand, and it still takes a year because you need to gain trust from people. You need to convince everybody that you are serious with your change, not that you're going to change to something else in another 1 or 2 months. And it takes time to prove yourself in a new field. So give yourself 2 or 3 years for this rebranding. Start when you feel secure and do it slowly. And how are you going to rebrand? First, start following people who are already the thought leaders in your new field. see how they collaborate, what they talk about, learn about new trends, collaborate with them in comments. And that's how you start slowly progressing. And when you get enough knowledge and finally pass the Dunning-Kruger mounting, so you can start delivering your own thoughts, and then people start collaborating with you, and then you launch the project. Not necessarily to launch it that global as mine, but to attract more people and more followers. And then when you do that, you will start noticing that people started knocking at your doors compared to a few months ago when you were knocking at someone else's doors. And that is a goal, to attract people to your door, not to run in from someone's door, one door to another.
This is excellent advice for those of you who are emerging leaders and you are even stepping into the workplace as a new leader. You have an opportunity to create your brand in that space, right? And it's going to start, you're not going to wait until it's time to apply for the next job or the next level up. You're going to start positioning yourself and creating that sort of brand presence now. For my business owners and entrepreneurs, the advice she just gave you, if you had a side hustle and you have a job, there's an opportunity now for you to start to think about what that brand looks like from a side hustle to something more solid, more stable. And for those of us who are maybe new in a space and trying to establish ourselves as thought leaders, subject matter experts, it's excellent advice. Thank you so much. Okay, 2 pieces of advice. I'm going to have you look backwards and forward, right? 25-year-old self, that's our line in the sand. So, Aina, looking back to who you were as a leader 25, what would you tell your 25-year-old self that wants to step into leadership now?
I would say be more persistent on what you really want. And if somebody rejects you at first time, try to find a way, if you really want to get there, how to get there, instead of changing your direction on 180 degrees.
Excellent. Okay, now looking forward. You're 25 and you're telling Aina Alive, who's just launched a global movement, what would you tell her at 25? What would you tell that older woman?
If I'm a 25 years old young lady looking at this older version of myself, I would notice that she became more cautious before starting speaking up, and also analyze the different risks and different perspectives, and got stuck in analysis paralysis rather than just doing and see what is going to happen next. So definitely risk analysis and like strategy, all of these things are important unless they are stopping you from acting. So sometimes forget about this and act and think about it while you're acting. That is my advice.
I love it. For those of you who are on LinkedIn and you see my LinkedIn header, you'll notice there's a DID next to me, right? That is my personality profile. And at this age, I have a bias towards action. So that resonates a lot with me. Okay, one word to define your view of leadership. These are rapid fire questions.
Resilient.
What books are you reading now, or what would you recommend?
Now I am reading Cognition. It's a psychological book.
Excellent. That goes on our book list. Everybody, you'll get a full book list with all of our experts sharing their tips. Aina, I appreciate the time you've given to me in the past, the time you've given today, spending with those who are watching this video in years to come. I love your mission to empower leaders through agile transformation. And I love the movement of moving from agile to the global PMO, the rise of that PMO officer. And I can't wait to the first company that doesn't have one today names one, because you know, because of the guidance and the leadership, the thought leadership that you put behind your book. Thank you so very much for tuning in. As we wrap up today's enlightening conversation, a heartfelt thank you to you for everything that you've done and for what you're doing. Your journey and dedication to agile methodology is inspiring, and you are an expert. She's a rock star. She's come in my class a few times and helped my students. At Virtual Partner, we're committed to transforming workplaces into hubs of innovation and inclusivity. And we're on a mission to gather insights like the ones you just heard today from stories from women from around the world who are in leadership roles to help us better understand both the challenges and the triumphs that they face. Your voice, if you're watching, your voice matters, and we'd love to hear from you as well. So before we go, if you're inspired by what you heard today and you want to join us in our mission to empower women leaders, don't forget to participate in our global She Rises survey. You can find it on my website, virtualpartner.biz/how she rises. Now, participating in this survey will help to shape future discussions both for this podcast and in workplaces around the world. I think together we can create a future where equity prevails and every woman has an opportunity to rise. Thank you for tuning in to She Rises. Stay inspired, stay empowered, and keep rising. Until next time.
That's a wrap for today's episode of She Rises. I hope you found inspiration, insight, and the motivation to keep pushing forward on your leadership journey. Remember, success isn't about reaching the top. It's about lifting others as you rise. If you love this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with other powerhouse women in your life. Follow me, Tiffany-O, and Virtual Partner for more resources on leadership, organizational growth, and creating workplaces where humanity thrives. Until next time, keep rising, keep leading, and keep making an impact.